So we are back, and I am absolutely pumped to have my good friend Jess back on the channel talking about another recent and new shift as a new driver, as a DoorDash Dasher specifically. And this time there's new problems and new scenarios that I absolutely guarantee you're going to have if you're a driver. So with that, let's get into this shift and talk about what happened. So Jess, welcome back to the channel. How is the day going so far?
That was good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Appreciate you having you back on the channel here. So this time we turned the lights off, folks, and Jess had a night shift here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Again, this is really in her first, I'd say 5 or so shifts, very new to DoorDash. You're going to get a ton of value if you're a new driver or even a veteran driver here. So talk to me about this shift. Again, it's night driving versus the daytime drive. We'll talk about that first. I mean, what did you encounter? What were the differences between the kind of that day and night driving?
It's definitely harder in the not being able to see numbers on the houses and stuff like that. Yep. And there seems to be a lot more people walking around, I guess, at night. I don't know if that's a thing, but I went more in a city area and there's people walking back and forth across the street. And I'm looking for numbers on streets and there's people just running out in front of my car, which caused me a lot of anxiety, but I don't know if I'm gonna be doing night much more, but.
Okay. So, it was the dinner rush, obviously, right?
Yeah. I think it was, I went a little late. It was 7 to 10.
Okay, cool. That's an interesting shift time too. Folks, comment down below when you typically drive. So Jess, you're driving in the evening, 7 to approximately 10 p.m. And it sounds like, now, did you start in a more city area or were you kind of pulled into a city area?
I was kind of pulled into the city area. So I started in Pleasant Hills area, right in 51 where Century 3 Mall used to be. I started there and I ended up taking a couple of things that took me into Brentwood area, a lot of close together city-ish. And there's a lot of people walking around. And the first delivery I had was a stacked order. And it was fairly simple. It was the same situation with my first shift where I went to the restaurant that wasn't ready yet. So I went to the first restaurant thinking that one was the first one. And their order wasn't ready. So I actually was smart about it this time. And I went to the other restaurant to pick up the order that was ready. Instead of sitting there wasting time for that specific order. I picked up that one first because they were in the same little strip mall. And then I picked up the second one. First one was fairly easy. There was a number right on top of the garage. Second one, there was no number. The only way I could notice it is how DoorDash shows you an aerial view of the houses. Right. And the house next to it had the number. And then I was assuming that this next one was the right house because that's where the map showed me. But there was no way for me to know for sure. And it said leave at the door that they wanted a contactless delivery, so I didn't want to knock on the door and have an issue like that.
Well, actually, sometimes customers specifically say don't do that, especially at night. So no fault there for not knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell. Actually, folks, there's a hack in there that just says, a tongue twister, just said, folks, is yes, on the DoorDash Dasher app, it'll show you those little icons for each house and it has a pin on the exact building, which does help. And, obviously if this is at night, that kind of especially helps if you can't see the house numbers. I want to go back to that point though. And folks, I mean, it doesn't matter which necessarily areas of the city here in Pittsburgh. This relates to this. Generally, just city versus kind of rural or even just suburban driving. Talk to me about, because I know you typically drive kind of in the suburbs, not necessarily here in City Central. How was that for you, that adjustment?
It's definitely not something I really enjoyed. Maybe if I was better at knowing the area. If I lived down there, I would know where safe places are to park, like you had told me. But me not going down in the city very often, I'm just driving in circles looking for a way to get to this building. Yeah. Because the one that I delivered was an office building and it was only parking garages. I'm not going to go into a parking garage, pay just to deliver. So I put my flashers on. But I'm not used to stuff like that. I don't usually deal with stuff like that.
I get that. And folks, again, I appreciate you sharing that. Folks, drop a like on this video if you appreciate just being on here. I've driven in San Diego. I have delivered to massive corporate offices. And I mean, there's no parking zones. You're delivering to this huge building. How's my car getting? Is my car going to be towed by the time I come out. I don't know. And apartment complexes trying to find the right building, especially again, if it's at night. So I get it. Yeah, absolutely, folks. And if you experienced something similar, let us know down below. But okay, you mentioned though that you were kind of dissuaded from doing it. You didn't necessarily want to maybe come back into the city. Is that the case? Or would you consider it maybe with a high enough bonus, or as you get more reps and you become familiar, or is it just something that you probably don't even want to consider?
I might consider it in like special occasions. Like if I had a whole day maybe to dedicate to driving around in the city. I just feel like the miles are less than where I usually drive, but like the time I spend parking, finding a safe place to get out of my car to pick up the food in general, I don't really know if you're going to make more with the same amount of time, like with what I do around my area.
I get that, because let me know if you agree with this, Jess, but I feel like suburbs, easier parking. You have like dedicated shopping plazas, strip malls, easy parking. But as you mentioned, there could be more miles because it's just the suburbs. It's not as densely packed. Trade-off in the city, you have shorter runs and probably maybe bonus pay as well because there's more customers, more orders. So maybe the bonus pay there. But again, the tricky drop-offs, it kind of sounds like that's what you ran into.
Yeah, just trying to find like both of the orders I had that I took in the city, I had to call the person for a delivery if there wasn't a designated spot. So the one where I delivered it to a building, I had to call her and she didn't answer like the first 3 times. So like I'm parked on the side of the road with my 4-ways on, walking around this large building, calling. There's no area for me to take it. So I'm just walking around trying to make sure my car's not going to get towed. And then she finally comes out and I think she upped the tip afterwards because she felt kind of bad, but she came out and she met me and they were very nice about it. But I was just like, I'm sorry, I couldn't find you. And then the second one I had to call and I had to leave it in between like double doors of maybe like a apartment complex, but it wasn't like actually at the door. It was like just in the communal space. So other than that, those were the only 2 I took before I left.
You're experiencing everything that, you as a driver watching this, really on any app, I guarantee you're going to have this happen to you. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. What I would tell you to do, folks, is if you're delivering in a big city, you have to kind of pick your battles when it comes to parking, and you will absolutely learn as you get the reps in. You can say, all right, I know I can leave my car here. It's not ideal, but it should be okay. Versus some areas, if it's super crazy high volume traffic, you probably don't want to just stop there, or whatever it is, you kind of have to learn there if you're going to be driving in the city. So Jess, you've done whatever X amount of shifts so far. You're starting to get the reps in. So do you feel like, number one, your earnings are going up because you're being smarter with the miles and well, let's just ask that question. Do you feel like you're making better use of the time getting the reps in?
Yeah. I think now that I know how it works, I can decide what is a better decision versus the first time where I was just taking whatever I could get, no matter where it took me or how difficult it was. Like grocery orders, we haven't talked about that yet, but grocery orders is a whole nother issue that I'm dealing with right now. Every time I make deliveries, I actually had to call customer service because of one.
Well, let's talk about it, because now you told me, I'll kind of put you on the spot here. You told me that you had a grocery run, I think it was a Walmart run, that seemed pretty attractive. And you're kind of thinking like, well, maybe this is the move. So has your thoughts changed on grocery? Tell me about that experience. What are your thoughts on kind of grocery?
Groceries have definitely changed for me because like initially it sounds like a good idea because it's a higher paying and it's usually kind of easier because it's just a whole bunch of stuff at one house. But the rules with Walmart are actually you have to hand the groceries to the customer or bring it back to the store. You can't just leave it unless they like call you, say leave it at my door and then I'll come grab it. Like you can't just leave it and walk away. They say in the specific description, like either hand to customer or bring back to the store. Yeah.
And some of these apps, folks, you have to pay attention. When I did my first shift on Walmart Spark, which is, Walmart groceries and just kind of, Walmart orders, of course, is it will tell you sometimes, is it contactless, or do you need maybe a customer signature? Or does it say, if they are not present, then you have to return it? Like for instance, on Amazon Flex, which is package delivery, if I can't, or if you can't deliver in a safe area, you got to drive all the way back to the warehouse to return that package. So let's talk about grocery here briefly. So I'm not sure if you mentioned this, I can't remember, but there's Shipt and there's Instacart, and those are of course grocery and on-demand services. So do you have any interest in that over food delivery?
Not necessarily. I think the food delivery is like, I don't want to say fast, but it's faster and kind of easier.
You can say fast. It is fast.
It's like
a good way to say
faster money than it is like if I were to go in and actually grocery shop. Because I did think about that before, because I can bring my son with me. But what I learned with the Walmart is they actually can deny you the delivery if you have small children in the car.
Wow, I see.
It says like in the description, Walmart has the right to turn away a driver if they have small children in the car that cannot be left unattended.
That's true. I think I am remembering that now. That's a good point.
I haven't brought my son with me yet, but if I was in that situation and I wasted time going up there and I didn't read that, and then they told me they couldn't give it to me because I had my son, that would not be a good day for me.
Yeah, we'll drive into that Walmart just to be denied there. And I get the perspective of where those apps are coming from. So, Jess, you are no stranger to having very unique experiences and problems as a new driver. You can set it up yourself. You had a very unique, again, it's crazy as a new driver, having all this kind of stuff thrown at you. I'm glad to help you. And folks, if this is going to help, if this is helping you, just sharing these experience, again, please drop a like on this video. What happened with that delivery?
The very first grocery order I took, it was a small amount, but I was driving around kind of aimlessly at that point. So I was like, I might as well do something. So I took a Walmart order and I drove up there. She came up to the window, she put it in my trunk. It didn't have to do anything. And I was like, cool. And I'm driving down the road and I realized that I'm driving to a trailer park. Not a problem, but it's like a very narrow road. There's only one way. Like I had to all the way turn around. It was a little bit difficult. And I finally find the right one. I walk up and it says like leave with customer. Same thing. It says I can't just leave it at the door and go. I have to hand it to her. So I'm like kind of walking around, but I don't want to like walk up in her house, but the door's wide open. So I'm calling her and she's not answering. So I walk up to the door and I'm like, hello, I'm here with your grocery delivery. And this older lady comes out and she's like, I didn't want instant delivery. And I don't know what to do. I was like, I'm not with Walmart. I'm like a third party. I just deliver. And she was like, well, I didn't want to do this. I didn't know how I did it. I just wanted the free delivery. She said, who's going to pay for this? I don't want this. And I was like, well, all I'm allowed to do is either hand this to you or take this back to the store. And she said she didn't want me to do that, but she didn't really understand how to fix it. She ended up keeping the groceries, but in that situation, I would have had to drive all the way back to the store. And it was a distance, not really worth the money, but it was something to do. But I learned in that situation, I don't think delivery with the groceries is something that I want to continue doing.
Well, hats off for you for handling. I think you handled it well. And
she was very sweet, but I felt bad.
I tell you, I mean, I have even had, that experience doing Spark and other delivery platforms. So hats off to you. I mean, yes, folks will have, tech issues. We'll have issues on the side hustler, driver side, and folks, and even the companies, they'll have issues with their apps. Things happen. You just kind of have to use your best judgment there, and I think you explained it well there. Yeah, grocery can be interesting, especially when you have that handoff. You have to confirm here. So you have more shifts under your belt here. So the weather's getting good. Well, let me talk about, just close on this point, because I know, again, busy mom, busy parents, you have a lot going on. And I think, a lot of our viewers have a lot going on as well. There's a lot to balance. So how many hours a week are you dedicating to the side hustle, and how's the flexibility? Is it working with your busy schedule?
Yeah, what I'm doing right now works out. Since I'm not bringing my son with me, I go for maybe like 3-4 hours. But that includes like the time I have to drive to the place. So I only really am working for maybe 3 hours. that I'm actually actively doing deliveries. So when I have the time to dedicate to it, it's fairly easy. And if something were to happen where I would have to come home, I could just end dash and go home. Because that's the thing with being a parent, is sometimes you get a call from school that you got to pick your kid up, or something's going on with the babysitter and you have to come home right now in like a normal 9 to 5 job that will affect you negatively. Like, you can end your dash whenever you want. It's not gonna, even if you're scheduled, like, you can really just say like, I'm done, and it doesn't really affect you as much. I haven't done a scheduled shift yet. I usually just do the dash now though. So I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, you can schedule a shift. You can end the shift. That just really reserves time for you. Grubhub has something different. Uber Eats doesn't have scheduled shifts. You just go online, offline. And folks, I mean, this is any app. I mean, that's a lot of flexibility of most of these apps. Some apps are more stringent, like Amazon Flex, of course. If you have all the packages, you can't just basically end it without some repercussions, of course. But with, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, a lot of these apps, you can, go offline anytime, which is, a lot of that flexibility that you mentioned. So, last question, you mentioned, 3-4 hours when you do drive. Now, how many days a week are you looking to kind of allocate to side hustle stuff?
Probably the days, like the weekdays. I would say Monday through Thursday. Friday would be a maybe. I know the weekends are usually better, but like for my specific needs, I don't think it's going to be worth my time, because I'd have to pay somebody to watch the kids, stuff like that. But if I can just run out, like the other day when I had an appointment in Shady Side, I was able to just do 3 deliveries and I made $30 just by going to an appointment, because I just was like, oh, I'll just do a couple deliveries while I'm out here. And I think that's the benefit of it, because like when you go places that you don't usually go, if you have an hour or two, take a couple deliveries, make $20 and go home.
I love it. Appreciate you sharing that. And again, for being on the channel here, folks, if you got value in Jess being here, sharing her new driver experience, more apps to come, I'm sure. And maybe a little teaser, maybe a ride along as well. We'll get some footage live in the field as well. Jess, thank you again for being on the channel.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And folks, again, if you got a value, would appreciate it if you do drop a like on this video. And you can also click or tap screen here for my newest video, as well as a video recommended for you. And I'll see you in the next one.